Hello everyone and welcome back for another Trinity stamps video. This is Cassie. Today we're going to be playing with the Porta-Hello stamps and dies. Check that out. It's so stinking cute. I love the play on words there. We're also going to be using the Love Dani paper pad. And then I also have the 4-bar envelope builder dies. And then I have these sequins or clay bits, and that's actually a mix of 4. We'll talk about it when I get to it. But let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to cut this down using the biggest rectangle in the 4-bar envelope builder die. Kind of trying to figure out how I want that placement. So I'm going to turn this on its side, and then I'll run this through my die cutting machine. It's going to leave a nice embossed edge, and that's going to be the full front of a 4-bar card. So as I said, we're going to be making a shaker card, and this is going to be a flat shaker. I'm kind of on a kick with these right now. So I'm trimming down some packaging that I had. This is slightly bigger. I highly recommend you use something a little bigger than what I did. It worked fine. It's just, you need to make sure that you have plenty to wrap around. So I'm going to use some score tape. This is about 1/4 of an inch, and so I'm just going to put this on all 4 edges. You're going to want to do that so that you can wrap your packaging all the way around, and I'm just putting that right along that edge. You're only going to take off probably 3. I only take off 2 at this time. I'm just taking off the sides because I want to make sure that this is going to wrap around the sides. And so I'm centering that up pretty nicely, and then I'll just pull that edge and then do the other edge as well. Like I said, this was tight, but it does work. It's plenty. You just want to make sure that it's not going to come off of there, and then any of your bits can fall out of there. So then I'll take off the one on the bottom, and then I do have some bulky corners, so I'm just going to trim those down just a tiny bit, just trim them in, and then we're going to pull in our sequin mix. So our sequin mix is comprised of some creamy vanilla stars, creamy vanilla hearts, creamy vanilla sprinkles, and some double rainbow 5mm and reading rainbow 10mm. And I put plenty in there. We'll peel off that last one, close it up, and then cut down the edges of that as well. So check that out. You get this fun flat shaker, easy to mail. So there's our front panel. I'm going to bring in our card base now. We're just going to go ahead and get that out of the way. Now, for a 4-bar, you're going to want a 5x7 piece of cardstock. I didn't quite cut mine correct, so I'll just fold that and then I'll trim it down later. I'm going to go ahead and put that same 1/4 inch tape on the back, peel off the release paper of my panel, or actually put it right down on the card base, and then I'll take my panel and I'm going to line that up on the one edge and then make sure that that is flat. So it is always nerve-wracking using tape like this because there's no wiggle room. Once it's down, it's down. And so there you have it. Now we're going to go on to our stamping. So I have some Express It cardstock that I put into my MISTI, and I've grabbed the main stamp, which is the Porta-Hello stamp, and I'm going to ink that up with some blackout ink. This is Copic friendly or alcohol marker friendly because we are going to do, as you guessed it, some alcohol marker coloring. I'm going to do my best to put the colors up on the screen for you, but I did choose some happy colors. All of my flowers are going to be this yellow. There is a reason for that as far as like happy colors, but one thing I've noticed about this is that I feel like you could color this in so many different ways. I really like this stamp so much. I love the design of it, all of the detail to it. And it's mushrooms. Mushrooms are fun. And so you could color your flowers all different colors. You could just have a grand old time doing, so many different panels in so many different ways, really, using just color. And so I've started with the yellow on the flowers, and then I'm going to bring in some green. Obviously that green is going to go on our leaves and all of our grass. I'm starting with some YG25, and I'm going to put that all over as a base for all of our leaves and all of our grass. And then when I've got that all down, I'm even going to put it on the centers of our flowers. I'm going to bring in some G07, and that's going to bring in just a little bit more of that green. The YG is a yellow green, and I'm going to put this down where I think the shadowing and the shading might go best. And then, even kind of really saturating the background with that color. And then I am going to bring that YG25 back in, and I'm going to soften those edges just a little bit. It's not that noticeable. All it really does is take away some of the harshness of where the color comes together. But other than that, yeah, it doesn't make a huge difference. It just kind of cuts down on the harshness. And so we'll do that for all of our grass, all of our leaves. And then for our mushrooms, you guessed it, I'm going to come in with some red. And it isn't as bright red as I was originally thinking. I'm going to start with some R37. That's going to be the base color for my caps. And then our mid-tone isn't vastly different than the R37. It's actually an R46. And it is a little bit darker, but because it's not quite that much darker, I decided to bring in a third color eventually. So all I'm doing is I'm going to bring in that R46 and put that down where I think it's going to look good, just to add a little bit of depth to it. But like I said, as you can see, it's not that different. So I'm going to bring in a much darker color. And that's going to make the difference. So we've got some R89. So that is significantly darker, and I'm not going too crazy with it. But then when I bring that R46 back in, it blends it beautifully, and then you can really see some of that differentiation in the color. So I really like that. For the underneath of our caps and for parts of our mushroom, we're going to use some E41. I'm going to leave a lot of white there though. I like the white. I think it's good. It kind of brings in the color from the background as well that we're going to have on our pattern paper. And then my darker shade is some E43. And then for our rocks, I am going to bring in some E44. Now most of those are going to get covered with our sentiment, but at least I did do it. And it adds just that little something something there. And then we're going to bring in our matching die to go with this, tack that down with a little bit of mint tape, and run that through our die cutting machine. And then we need to stamp our sentiment. So I've had this small piece of some sentiment cardstock. I put a powder tool over the top of that. I'm going to ink up the sentiment that I chose using some juicy embossing ink. And then we'll bring in our reverse tweezers and we'll cover this with that white detail embossing powder that I have there. And then we'll heat set that till that is smooth and melted. And as you can see, it says shiitake happens. I'll bring in the matching die. I love that we have those. And run that through the die cutting machine. And then I'm going to wrap this with some baker's twine. I've put down just some of that same 1/4 inch score tape that I've been using right down in the center. I'm not worried that's going to get covered. And then I'm going to wrap my baker's twine around about 3 times, trim that down, and then secure that in place right over the top of that score tape. I put some foam tape on the back of my mushrooms and I'll stick that down right on top. And then I'll use some liquid glue to stick down our sentiment. Now you know why I wanted all that fun, happy, and rainbows in the background. It just goes so well, I thought. Just kind of a play on the shiitake happens. And then as a final bit on the inside, I'm going to ink up my stamp, my main stamp again, using a dark red ink. And I'm going to stamp that in that lower left-hand corner of the inside of our card. And I did make an envelope to go with it that just uses some tonic red berries. I love how this all goes together, and it fits so nicely in our little do-it-yourself envelope. So there you have it. If you like this video, be sure to hit that like button and definitely consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I hope that you have an amazing day. Bye, everybody.